Let's start at the year 2005. Sam Raimi began brainstorming on the follow-up to one of the greatest comic book movies of all time. Fast forward to 2006, and pressure is being put on Mr. Raimi for putting in Venom, an extremely popular Spider-Man villain from the 80s. Only problem is, Mr. Raimi had no intention on including Venom, so he works on other villains. Fast forward to 2007, and Spider-Man 3's main marketing is from Venom, which Raimi finally gave in to putting into the movie. Spider-Man 3 is not the Superman Returns or Batman and Robin of Marvel comic movies. Instead, it is a film that is a definition of why studio meddling always lead to downfall. The film is about Peter's struggles with being there for Mary Jane, convincing Harry about his father's true death, and Peter's cope with overcoming his inner demons, symbolized by the black suit. First, we're introduced to the Sandman, the most fleshed out villain, escaping prison to see his daughter. He always says he's not a bad person, he just did a bad thing. We find out it was Flint Marko, the Sandman, who had killed Peter's uncle that night, not the person Spider-Man had thought in the first movie. This also fuels Peter's anger and his lust to kill Marko. But before that, Peter plans to marry Mary Jane and everything is good, except Harry. While returning home, he is attacked by him, in a pretty epic fight I might add, with the new Goblin, the second villain in the film. Turns out Harry had used the same chemical that turned Norman into a buffed up supervillain, and used his technology to create a new snowboard. Glider. I get that mixed up a lot. Don't you just hate it when a rich corporation uses its money for revenge and killing someone? Anyways, so they get into a fight. Harry hits his head hard and loses his memory. This knocks him out for a good half hour in the film, too. Now, many hate this because Harry is going back to his normal self, last seen in the first film. But in all defense, we never saw Harry happy or even chuckle in Spider-Man 2. So the fact that him and Peter are on good terms again brings back good memories of the first film, and even their friendship. It doesn't last long, however, since he does regain his memory, but it still is nice. After that, we get the biggest coincidence of the movie, as when Peter and MJ leave for home on a moped, the small meteorite within the black symbiote comes crashing to Earth right next to them and attaches to the moped. Yeah. What? You never had a meteorite crash right next to you and never heard or inspected the crash site? No? Well, okay then. So Peter has flashbacks of Uncle Ben's death that night, and that also goes and gives the symbiote time to attach to him, and so he becomes the black suit Spider-Man. Greater power, more confidence, more agile. This new Spider-Man has positive and negative effects on Peter. He becomes more angry, more rageful, and more comical? We'll get to that in a bit. Meanwhile, Flint Marko gets trapped in a particle accelerator while escaping the police. He then becomes the Sandman. The scene where he becomes the Sandman is probably the most beautiful scene in the entire trilogy. I am not kidding. The cinematography, the visuals of the grains on the Sandman, the damn music. It's just beautiful. So Sandman uses his power to rob a bank so he can get money to help his ill daughter, and Spider-Man goes to stop him. Red suit, I might add, and gets his ass kicked. Later on, he goes to save Gwen Stacy from a building. Yes, she is actually in the movie as a college student with Peter. Now, Gwen Stacy is someone who is very important to the comics and is Spider-Man's first romance, not Mary Jane. Mary Jane came after Gwen Stacy. In this, however, she's basically a pawn for getting MJ jealous after she leaves Peter for Harry. However, Harry, after regaining memory, threatens MJ that he will kill Peter if she doesn't cooperate. So Peter consumes to the black suit and takes down Sandman in a train station, in a pretty epic fight scene too. A lot of epic fight scenes in this movie. So Peter defeats him and thinks he actually killed Marco, and learns from Aunt May that revenge will never get you anywhere in life. Wow, I've been talking about the main characters. I missed the main marketing ploy Sony shoved down our throats. Venom, or Eddie Brock, played by Topher Grace. You mean that 70s show kid? Never mind. Anyways, so Eddie is a rival to Peter in the Daily Bugle, which we see a little bit more of, and we still see J. Jonah Jameson, and has probably the funniest lines in the movie. Only Jonah can make a joke about getting a picture of Spider-Man's hand in a cookie jar in order to frame him. Now, let's get back to the comedy. And while there are some hits, there are many more misses. Many more misses. Yes, we all know the Peter dance number in the middle of New York and the jazz dance number. Well, yeah, it's funny to laugh at. To quote Geekvolution in his review of Spider-Man 3, we shouldn't be laughing at Peter while he wears the black suit. We should feel the torment inside him and the rage that he also feels as well. So after humiliating Eddie at the Bugle, hitting MJ, and having Gwen leave him, Peter goes on top of a church to think. He then tries to take off the suit, but, like the comics, only loud ringing sounds can harm the symbiote. So he hits the church bell, the suit comes off, and Eddie sees that Peter is Spider-Man, right before the suit comes attached to Eddie, finally creating Venom, our third villain. Speaking of villains, the Sandman comes back and Venom goes to ally with him in order to kill Spider-Man. Yeah, classic cliche number 42. They do this by kidnapping Mary Jane. Again, cliche in the movies. Spider-Man, realizing his wrongings, goes to Harry to help. But before taking off the black suit, they had a fist fight in the mansion, resulting in Spider-Man throwing a pumpkin bomb at Harry, literally two-facing him or destroying half of his face. Harry tells him to go and leave him. Harry's butler comes to him and explains, in yet another coincidence, what really happened the day his father died. Harry, realizing this, goes to save Spider-Man after Sandman and Venom nearly kill him. So that's, what, coincidence number 8? So we have our final battle, which results in Harry getting pierced by his own glider, the same way Norman died, and he also dies. Peter uses pipes to create a loud noise to get the symbiote off Eddie. Peter throws a pumpkin bomb at it. Eddie goes lunging towards it and basically commits suicide. After that, we get a really teary story of how and why Uncle Ben was shot. Peter learns how to forgive. Sandman gets off free as a good person, and there's a funeral for Harry. Peter also learns about choice. He and Mary Jane get back together. Cue credits. Okay. Overall, I enjoy this movie. And I enjoy this movie mainly for the top-notch action scenes, the amazing visual, the lessons of choice, and basically the reoccurring responsibility lesson, and the villains. Sandman is relatable. New Goblin was the redemption villain, and Venom, for how little he was on screen, looked terrifying and amazing creature as an anti-Spider-Man. And the music. Now, Danny Elfman was replaced by Christopher Young as composer, but Young's music is simply stunning and breathtaking, especially the Sandman Born scene. I understand why people were disappointed, but I don't blame Raimi. Blame Sony. They wanted Venom way after Sandman was in the script. There was even going to be 2 parts to this movie, but it was eventually scrapped. But in all, it was the worst in the trilogy, but it's nowhere as bad as movies like Ghost Rider or Catwoman. I give it a 7.5 out of 10. Tune in for my amazing Spider-Man review and a retrospective on the series.